the Suddenlies of God. And I want to encourage you guys. We feel like we're the same old family, right? We still get to chat. We still get to hang out. So YouTube, if this is your first time on and you don't know what I'm talking about, I used to be on Periscope. I was on Periscope for like 4 years, maybe 5, I don't know. Long time. Built up a following on Periscope. And for the last like year at least, no, a couple of years, here and there, people will say, you need to move over to a different platform. You need to move to YouTube. You need to do, I heard YouTube a lot. And I remember when I first came to YouTube, I got all messed up because I couldn't figure out how to do my MacBook on YouTube. So you know how you get a little bump in the road and you say, oh, never mind, wasn't meant to be. Oh, never mind. And there are some doors that are going to close for you in 2021. There are some doors that are going to close because you really got to move. So you get like these little nudges along the way. And then all of a sudden it's just like, you're about to be thrown out of the nest. It comes. And me being thrown out of the nest was Periscope saying, we're ending at the end of March. And I think they're like merging with Twitter. I don't know. But at that point, I had already had in my head, I was leaving them. No, I don't do this to Periscope because they've been good to me. Periscope's been good to me. It's given us a place to land, right? Giving us a place to have our break room. So I don't do deuces to Periscope. I just say bonjour, what is that? Bon voyage? I don't know. I need to learn some languages. Yes, I do. Besides English. But anyway, adios. Adios. Would that work? Hey, Tawanda, I'm here. We're on our new platform. So let's just go right into it, guys. So again, this is the break room. This is the place you can come in, relax, regroup, and then re-engage the world with a whole new perspective. We're talking about the suddenlies of God. If you are looking for a suddenly, awesome. Suddenly show up. Suddenlies happen. A suddenly just happened for me. So again, if you're new to this, I'm just jumping in because I'm used to my Periscope family, but some of you might be watching a replay or you might be on YouTube and you don't know who I am. I'm an author and a speaker, and I get to lead the global surrender movement. It's just really a privilege to be able to teach people how to do God's will his way so they can fulfill the amazing destiny and plan that's on their life. We get to choose. We sure do. We get to choose. We're beings. We get to make our own choices. We have free will. But man, I'm telling you, when you follow the will of God, your best life you will live. Your best life you will live. So anyway, oh man, where do I start? So anyway, last month, a couple months ago, we were doing the global surrender fast. So I'm just telling you how God will show up with something suddenly that you're not expecting. And I want you to expect it in this new year. I want you to expect God's suddenlies to show up for you. So during our global surrender fast, so we do a global surrender fast every year. You guys know that. Some of you joined us in 2020. We've been doing a global surrender fast for years now. And I wrote a book called The 40-Day Surrender Fast. So many of you already know that. I wrote a book called The 40-Day Surrender Fast. That book was written in 2010, but some of you might not know this. And I've been reminded as I thought about this today, is that I wrote another book before the 40-Day Surrender Fast. And I just kind of got amnesia about that book because I didn't know where that book was. So you don't know that. You probably think the 40-Day Surrender Fast was my first book. I actually wrote another full book, like the entire book before the 40-Day Surrender Fast. So in October, this is a suddenly. Well, it's not a suddenly. This is a hint of a suddenly to come. Sometimes you'll get a hint of a suddenly to come. So I'm just telling you little nuggets as you go along. Sometimes you'll get a hint. So someone says on they email me during the global surrender fast, hey, I see that you wrote about a book that you wrote on destiny. Is that book available? In 10 years of the global surrender fast being in existence, no one has ever asked me about the destiny book. So let me tell you. So let me turn around and get the book for you. So this is the 40-Day Surrender Fast. On page 11, which none of y'all have ever asked me about, except for Melissa, this October or September. On page 11, when we talk about what is a surrender fast, I put here in the second paragraph, thank you, Colin, a hint of a suddenly to come. I am near completion of a book that I believe will change the way this generation approaches success. It outlines the steps that every person must take to fulfill his or her destiny. Not one of y'all have asked me about that book. Not a one, except Melissa. Melissa says in 2020 of October, I think it was October, you happen to have a copy of that book? Is that book in print? Can I get that book on Destiny? All of a sudden, I'm like, I email her back. I'm like, no, Melissa, I lost that book a long time ago. I don't even know where it is. I don't know how to reclaim it. I can't even think about, I can't even remember what I wrote. It got lost. But then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, God, why'd you have her bring up the book? I was like, maybe I should think about writing that book again on Destiny. It was 7 Steps to Fulfill Your Destiny. Maybe I should think about writing that book again. So in 2010, when I wrote the Surrender Fast, when I didn't even know I was writing a Surrender Fast, I had written a book, or was almost done, complete with a book on Destiny. People started doing a Surrender Fast. In the midst of people doing a Surrender Fast, I was shopping the book on Destiny. I had written a proposal. I had gotten a literary agent and was trying to get this book on Destiny published. Didn't even realize in my prayer of writing a book that I had written a book when I wrote the Surrender Fast blog. I didn't even realize that was a book because I was so busy shopping the Destiny book. 6 months later, someone mentions you should take that book, you should take your blog and make it a book. I hadn't even considered it because I was so busy shopping the Destiny book. I take the Surrender Fast off of the blog, print it out as a book, as you see now, and this thing has gone everywhere. Well over 20,000 copies sold, might be at 30,000. I need to go and do a recount one of these days. Translating to several languages. I mean, it took off. That's what's called seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things will be added. I mean, that was kingdom work because I wasn't even trying to do that. A year later or so, maybe a little longer than a year, do y'all know my computer crashed? My computer crashed and I lost everything, including the book that I had written on Destiny. Crashed, gone, over. I spent months going through emails, trying to see if I had emailed it to anyone, or looking through my files in Dropbox and all the files I had backed up in, what is that thing called? Wherever you back files up. Not the cloud, though. It was before the cloud existed. Couldn't find it. So I gave up. I guess it's over. Melissa says in October 2020, you happen to have that book? I'm like, I sure wish I did, Melissa. Sure wish I did. We're doing a fast with the women's ministry at First Baptist Church of Glenarden. And on day 3 of reading a book by Lisa Turkhurst, When Women Walk in Faith, day 3 is entitled, God Has a Plan. God has a plan. And in God Has a Plan, she says very briefly, I have these 5 steps on how to increase and walk in faith. I was like, I used to have a book on 7 steps to fulfill your destiny. I started this daydream. I used to have a book. And then I pull out my pen and I'm like, maybe I can remember the steps. Maybe I can remember the 7 steps to fulfill your destiny. I was just racking my brain. I couldn't even remember one step. I was like, what's the first step? I can't remember any of these steps. And I used to talk about these steps religiously. Anybody who would listen in 2010, I would tell them this. And every time I told them, it's like, that's good. That's going to be a great book. Thank you. I lost it. And then when I finished not being able to remember not one step, it just comes to me so clearly. The Holy Spirit whispers to me, go to your email and search Destiny book. I was like, you know how many times I've done that? But okay. And I go to my email, I search Destiny book, and what comes up, you guys? The Destiny book. Sitting there from August 9th, 2020, I emailed it to myself with a note to say, in God's timing, the book is not now. I don't know how I knew that. I think because I got so many rejections from the literary agents. The book is not now, is not the time, but I'm just going to concentrate on, I really wrote this, I'm going to concentrate on loving Jesus more, loving people, growing in faith, and something else I wrote. What? Steph, wow, right? The Destiny book is back. And I go and I pull it up and I'm so amazed, oh my goodness, my book is back. And I go to do the word count. Do you have 41,000 words? I only have a little bit more to add and I got my book done. Plus, you know what though? I need to add, I added today another whole section because I'm like 10 years older than when I wrote it back then. So some of the stuff I'm reading then, I'm like, girl, you know a little bit more now. So I'm going to add in a decade of new wisdom and put in the book, but it'll come out this spring. So isn't that cool? So I say all of that to say, thank you guys. You guys are like all applauding me over in the chat. I see you. I see you. That my book came back. So what's going to come back to you? What's going to come back to you? I don't know. I'm just throwing out there for you. What suddenly is God going to do in your life? And one of the ways to make a suddenly happen is to be inquisitive, to be expecting, to believe that God could actually do something great, to get a hint, and actually think like, God, you could be resurrecting something. You could be doing something different. You could be doing something new. Our church's theme this year is actually let God do a new thing. Our church's theme is let God do a new thing. Does that sound familiar? Well, this is way too junky to really show you, but that's the first day of the pre-fast. Maybe some of you should do the fast. Let God do a new thing. That's the first day. I'm sure Pastor Jenkins is totally doesn't know that the first day of this book is let God do a new thing. It just happens to be the church's theme this year. Isn't that awesome? Let God do a new thing. And I'm including with that, let God do a suddenly for you, Charlene. Let God do a suddenly for you. Because he will do it. It tells us too, in Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision, make it plain on tablets. So I had written this whole book around fulfilling your destiny in 7 steps, written this entire book. That was me writing a vision, making it plain, thought it was gone. And you know what? I didn't bother after a few months to continue to mull over what was. So often we get caught up in what was and really can't experience what is right now. I had to let it go and I had to move on, and I had to go promote this new book, The 40-Day Surrender Fast, that I promoted as my first book, but it was really my second book. But I had lost the first book, I thought. I had lost it. But it was not gone. It was just hidden. It was just hidden for such a time as this. It was just hiding out, really in plain sight. I would think. I thought I had Googled Destiny Book in every single email I owned, but apparently it didn't want to be found. Some things just don't want to be found. But it is back. And you know what's so interesting about us suddenly, and some things that we have lost or we think are over or will never come back to us, and we put so much work and time and effort that we just have to trust God's timing, right, Charlene? That's what Charlene says in chat. We just have to trust God's timing. And in between my first book, which is really that Destiny book, I've written 4 other books. I didn't mull over. I lost the first book and now I'm never going to write, because some people would do that. I wrote all those words. I wrote over 40,000 words and it gets erased. God, I'm not trusting you anymore. I ain't writing. I'm not doing a thing. But no, I kept it moving and wrote the 40-Day Surrender Fast, and then produced a journal for that, and then wrote The Art of Your Surrender, and then Making Peace with Hunger, and was in the middle now of writing another book, The Road Home, in the middle of writing that. So funny. I'm in the middle of writing The Road Home, and the Destiny book shows up. So I'm going to table my other book I was working on, and we're going to produce this Destiny book. I'm so excited. So that's all I got for you today. That he's a suddenly God. He can do some suddenlies in your life, and all you have to do is trust him, right, Jay? Trust him. The vision is for an appointed time. Thank you, R. Simmons. The vision is for an appointed time. And though it's tarry, it will not hesitate to show up when at its appropriate time, if you are in position to receive it. If you are in position to receive it, you know the position you have to be in is obedience. When the Holy Spirit whispered to me, go and Google in your email Destiny book, I could have easily said, I've already done that. Why am I thinking that? That's silly. I've done that so many times. I looked for this book for many, many months. I'm not doing that. That's dumb. And I would have missed an entire opportunity for God to show up with a suddenly in my life. So when you get that little urge, that little push, that little do this, even though you've done it a million times, don't poo-poo the idea. Just do it. I should have came up with that slogan. Really. I should have came up with that slogan. Just do it. Because it really is the truth. Just do it. Thank you, Anna. Just do it. Trust his timing. Keep on moving. Keep doing kingdom work, and it will show up. There's something that you thought was lost forever. I'm telling you, it's going to show up because you're listening to me for a reason. So for some of you, this is really a timely rhema word for you because God is about to do something suddenly in your life, and he's about to show up with the thing that you thought was forever lost, forever gone, never to resurface. But we serve a God who is into resurrections. He really is. He's into reviving things, dry bones, dead situations. He's into that. So he will do a suddenly, he will do the amazing. So thank you guys for hanging out. My first YouTube live.